If you follow the slow and steady money principles that we review in this channel, living below your means, saving steadily, and investing slowly for the long run, it's not a matter of if you will build wealth, rather the question of when. But one of the big dilemmas that many of us will face once you have a sizable amount of wealth is this: the temptation to let the world know how successful you are. Before you couldn't afford it, but now that fancy new car keeps catching your eye. Maybe your parents might finally come around to praising you instead of criticizing you for your frugal lifestyle. Or how about that huge home down the street that always seemed to have all the toys? It's finally on the market, and you can finally afford a down payment. Why not go for it, right? But this is where I would caution all of us and recommend that we all continue to practice the principle of frugal wealth, where despite how wealthy you become, you continue to live out the life of frugality. Hi, if you're new to the channel, my name is Tay from Financial Tortoise, where we learn to grow our wealth slow and steady. The number one reason why we want to practice frugal wealth is that it will keep us grounded. Grounded on the reality that money isn't really that important to our lives once our basic needs are met. Yes, once you have some breathing room in your finances, having a fully funded emergency fund, a well-funded retirement account, and even some extra money for other things, it's a natural pull to want to splurge a little bit. I mean, I sure felt that way. And this was only after my wife and I had paid off our student loans. We weren't anywhere close to having sizable wealth yet. However, when we saw some extra dollars in our bank account, we couldn't help ourselves but fantasize about what we could do with that extra money. But when we look deeply into ourselves to why these thoughts even occur, it's because we all have a natural inclination to be seen. To be seen by our families, our friends, and even random people on the street. We want them to acknowledge us as human beings, and the quickest way to get attention is with nice, expensive things. Nothing says, "Hey, look at me," louder than a fancy new sports car, a huge house, or a designer-wear bag. However, money at its fundamental level is nothing more than a piece of paper. It has no emotion, no morals, no value except the one we assign to it. So we can continue to live our life of frugality because remember, it was the frugal habits that built your wealth in the first place. It will continue to keep us grounded in what's truly important in our lives. If we need a real-life example of frugal living from an actual billionaire, let's take a page out of Mr. Warren Buffett's book. Mr. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, is worth over $100 billion today. And is probably one of the few individuals in the world for whom buying a multi-million-dollar home wouldn't even make a dent in his net worth. Yet he continues to live in the same house he purchased in 1958 for $31,500. A nice simple home, but a home for a billionaire? I say if Mr. Warren Buffett can remain frugal, so should we. The second reason why you want to practice frugal wealth is a lot more practical, but when you practice frugal wealth, you pay less in taxes. When you live a life of frugality, the biggest immediate benefit is that you have a lower cost of living. You don't have a fancy car payment, no crazy mortgage, no private club membership dues. Therefore, when you have a lower cost of living, you need less income to maintain that lifestyle. Thus, in turn, less taxes you have to pay. In America, we have what is commonly called a progressive tax system, which means that the percentage of income an individual or household pays in taxes tends to increase with increasing income. So not only do those with higher income pay more in total taxes, they pay a higher rate of taxes. For a married couple filing jointly, in 2023, if your income is slightly over $190,000, you are in the 24% federal tax bracket. Just think about that for a second. You're paying close to a quarter of your paycheck to the federal government, and this doesn't even include payroll taxes like Medicare and Social Security, and depending on where you live, state income tax. And this keeps going up higher the income ladder you move up. 32%, 35%, and at the highest, even 37% of your income to the federal government. I've seen individuals who make close to $300,000 a year and pay up to $50,000 to $80,000 in taxes alone. And the key reason they're paying this much in taxes is because their lifestyle requires them to recognize that full $300,000 of income. But when you can practice frugal wealth, continuously living below your means regardless of how much your net worth is and how much income you bring in annually, you have means to dramatically reduce the tax you pay. Max out tax advantage accounts like the 401k and the HSA. Invest in real estate properties where you can take advantage of property depreciation. Make charitable donations. Or even start a side business to deduct expenses that would normally just be an expense in your budget. The bottom line is that when you practice frugal wealth, you have a lot of flexibility to manage your finances and taxes to your benefit because you aren't needing to fund a high expensive lifestyle. The third reason why you want to practice frugal wealth is one of my favorite, and it is that it lowers the expectations people have of you. Or if you're like me, not elevated because there wasn't much to begin with. When you drive a not too fancy car and you don't wear expensive designer clothes, people will automatically assume you're a nobody. I mean, I get this reception pretty much everywhere I go. Though for some this may be hard to swallow, I find that quite liberating. When you're a nobody, nobody expects you to do anything or do anything special. I mean, think about all the pressure that celebrities have to always look good in public. I'm sure many of them just want to put on some comfortable clothes after waking up and go for a leisurely walk without anybody taking their picture. But I doubt famous movie stars like Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise can do that. And what about if you're a child prodigy? The moment you picked up a violin, adults lined up to see you play. People thought you were destined to be the next Mozart. However, the truth is that many prodigies don't meet the high expectations that people have of them. Malcolm Gladwell talks about in his 2008 book Outliers how IQ for life success is important only up to a threshold. He quotes a study of Nobel Prize winners. A mature scientist with an adult IQ of 130 is as likely to win a Nobel Prize as one whose IQ is 180. The fact is that when we live a life where we're showing wealth to everyone, people have a higher expectation of you. People expect that you have a lot of money because you have a lot of fancy things, that you must have $1 million in the bank account, that you have a ridiculously profitable business. Thus, when it comes to spending money, they might expect that you pay more for things. Or if there's a fundraiser, that you donate the most amount. Or the probability is that people that are most showy with their wealth probably have the least amount of actual wealth. One of my favorite scenes in the movie Forrest Gump is the last scene when Forrest Gump sits down on a tree stump after dropping his son off at the school bus. A passerby might assume that Forrest is a loser with no job and no prospects just based on his outer appearance, not knowing that he's a multimillionaire, a war hero, and a champion ping pong player. What is most amazing is Forrest probably could care less. He gets to do whatever he wants with his life, and that is true wealth. No one is going to bother him because he looks like a nobody, and that is completely fine with him. And this leads nicely to the fourth reason why you want to practice frugal wealth. Because when you practice frugal wealth, you can really focus on what matters. You aren't distracted by all the trinkets and toys. You don't need the latest gadgets just for the sake of getting them. You don't need fancy private club memberships because you frankly don't feel comfortable in that environment. When you can cut out all those things in your life, it frees you up to really focus on the things that matter. Just like Forrest from earlier, because he didn't need additional things in his life, he was able to focus on the most important things in his life at the time, his son. When we allow ourselves to get swept up by the culture of wanting and needing something newer, something more, and something better, it actually becomes a mental burden that's hard to get rid of. Whenever we pass by the car dealership, we're tempted to test drive the latest model. I mean, it's just a test drive, right? It can't hurt. Whenever we drive by the mall, we have the pull to just drop in and check out what's on sale. I mean, shopping is the American pastime. Nothing wrong with getting a good deal on a jacket I didn't intend to buy, right? But when you practice frugal wealth, we condition ourselves to make do with what we have rather than sprinting around for something new. We become more comfortable with accepting what we currently own rather than trying to replace it. And this in turn frees us up to concentrate on the more important things in life. The fifth reason why you want to practice frugal wealth is what I consider the most important. And that is, I believe frugal wealth leads to a happier life. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, if you're following the slow and steady path to wealth principles of this channel, you will eventually achieve wealth one day. If you build a strong career capital, manage your expenses, and invest for the long run, I'm confident many of you will be wealthier, if not millionaires one day. But when you arrive at your financial goal, you'll wonder what's next. That is, if you haven't spent the time to discover your ideal lifestyle in the process. Ralph Waldo Emerson famously said, "Life is a journey, not a destination." In the same way, the pursuit of financial independence and financial wealth is a journey, not a destination. In 1938, Harvard set out what came to be known as one of the longest studies ever done, following 268 Harvard students for the next 80 years. Harvard was trying to figure out what are the key components to a healthy and happy life. And their finding was this: close relationship more than money or fame or what keeps people happy throughout their lives. When you focus on frugal wealth, as I mentioned earlier, it cuts out a lot of distractions in your life because you naturally gravitate towards focusing on what's near us, not constantly trying to buy new things to fill the gaps in our lives. When we have more room, we have more space for important things like relationships that bring us more joy and happiness in the long run. That's it, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I hope these 5 reasons help you to see why we should all practice frugal wealth. Please let me know in the comments below your thoughts, and if you'd like to learn more about how to be frugal, but not cheap, please check out my video here. Until next time, all the best.